Our focus is on report writing. What is a report? Little, in 1977, defined a report as a document providing an account of something witnessed or examined or of work carried out, of an investigation together with conclusions arrived at as a result of the investigation. The definition may be old, but the content of the definition is applicable. Some have defined a report as a communication of information or advice from a person who has collected and studied the facts to a person who has asked for the report because they need it for a specific purpose. Now, we are going to look at two structures of a short report, and we are going to focus specifically on one. The first structure of a short report is the very basic one, which has the title page, the introduction or background or overview, and then you have the discussion section where the detail is now given, and then you have the conclusion and recommendations and the references. This is the most basic generic form of a short report. But I want to focus on what is known as the schematic report, which is also a form of a short report, and many different types of reports can be written using the schematic form. For example, a site inspection report, an incident report, a lab report, an experiment report, a performance or appraisal report, a periodic report or routine report can be written as a schematic report. And so I want to take you through the structure of a schematic report for purposes of this study. The schematic report can be broken down into 6 parts. The first part is called the terms of reference. The terms of reference should have 3 things in it. That is, by whom the report has been requested, the precise area to be covered in the report, the outcome of the report, that is, the objectives of the report. For example, this report was requested by the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of General Education to examine the presence or assess the availability of masks in schools, to inform the Minister of problems encountered by schools and make recommendations for immediate action. So you can see that the report has been requested by the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Education, and the precise area to be covered, it's the availability or non-availability of masks in schools, and its intended outcome is that a recommendation should be made to the Minister of General Education to take action. So those are the terms of reference. The second part of the schematic report is the procedure, which includes the methods of investigation such as an experiment, observations, the survey or questionnaire, consultation, research, and so on. So an example here would be head teachers and members of staff were interviewed using focus group discussions, observations of behavior was carried out, and a general survey was sent to all the schools. So here you list or indicate the procedure or method that you used or you are going to use to collect the data or the information that is needed. So the terms of reference and the procedure form the introduction of a schematic report. The third part is findings. And this is the longest part of the schematic report. It is the body of the report. Using our example given in the terms of reference, the findings would be something like this. From the interviews, All groups interviewed agreed that the ministry had not provided many masks. Some head teachers had to use monies from other budgets to buy masks. Teachers expressed their fear of going into class because students do not come with masks, and teachers also do not have the masks. During the visit, it was observed that some teachers in certain schools did not wear masks. The survey showed that only 16% of both public and private institutions had masks. Public schools, however, were badly affected by the absence of the masks. You can now go into detail and unpack what these findings mean. So you carry out an interpretation. In the conclusion then, you look at the findings, your results, and come up with conclusive statements to determine an action. So we can conclude by saying schools have inadequate masks, learners were not wearing masks in class, teachers were not wearing masks in class, schools lacked capacity to provide masks. So in our recommendations, we are going to base our statements on the conclusion and the findings. So in the recommendation, we would say something like, the Ministry of General Education needs to identify needy schools and act immediately. Awareness coordinated by the Ministry of General Education should be provided at province level. And the last recommendation could be schools should receive financial backing in terms of supplies or even in monetary terms. And then in the appendices section, which is the last section of the schematic report, you can include any other detail that could not be put in the main body. So this is an example of a schematic report. So a schematic report is a short report that is not necessarily a condensation of a longer report, but it stands on its own as an independent report.